trees of life, I guess, but, maybe they're going to get away from that. Maybe they'll bring the fences in, too, at Safeco, so people can hit some home runs. But,
should do that at Petco, too.
Right. Oh, and let's switch over to second base real quick. There's another big position that needs filling that usually doesn't get filled very easily. Obviously, we know Robinson Cano is going to be a dude to mention, but big surprise, number 2 guy in fantasy, second base, Mr. Kipnis, Mr. Jason Kipnis.
I guess I'm not totally surprised at that. I didn't see him swiping all the bags that he's been swiping, but I saw the power coming. I did. That's quite the tandem they have up the middle between him and Asdrubal.
Right. No, I took a shot in the dark on Kipnis this year. I just been hearing that he's got some talent, he's got a little bit of speed, a little bit of pop, and then I wasn't expecting though a 2040 pace through the All-Star break, but yeah, quite a talented young man. The other guy, Jose Altuve. That guy's like what, 19? Seriously, no.
I did not see him doing anything.
Especially for the Astros, and he's got.
Well, and I know the Astros are struggling, but there's another Astro out there that has surprised the hell out of me. And because he plays for the Astros, I'm sure you don't know that he has 49 RBIs, and that's J.D. Martinez. Who is J.D. Martinez?
He's their top guy. He's their big bat prospect.
Did they get him I think they got him in I think he came from Philly. I think he came from a trade in Philly. I could be wrong, but.
Well, let's find out.
Maybe the same deal that brought J.A. Happ there?
No, he's a 20th round pick by the Houston Astros. 20th rounder. His batting average ain't doing anything for you, but he's a work in progress.
Well, and his batting average has gone down quite a bit. And I know he busted out of the gate. I think after the first month he was hitting like 320. Had almost 30 of those RBIs. So he's dropped down a little bit. But I mean, he's
getting on base a lot too. That was a big deal for such a young guy. But no, I agree. He will be the guy they build around. I think he won't come at a high price tag, and he will be decent.
What do you think of, speaking of second baseman, one guy that I thought was going to be a decent keeper for AL only league, an 8th rounder, which also helped his stock was something that also helped his stock was making him first base and outfield eligible is Howie Kendrick. I put a lot of stock in him, and he fits my mold of guys that have been around. He's had some disappointment at the major league level, been sent down, and been back up. And I just really saw I didn't see him coming up hitting 330, hitting 20 home runs by any means, but I just saw him as a nice, steady guy that's going to do everything. Maybe hover around 300. Hit 15 home runs, steal maybe 20, 30 bags. Not somebody who's going to do a lot of flash, but just has a nice steady pace. Probably score 100 runs, especially hitting in front of guys like Pujols and Torrey Hunter and Trumbo.
Yeah, he was supposed to hit second in a, dare I say, even lead off in a great lineup, and he just kind of fell on his face. Kind of like he usually has in recent years, or as opposed to last year where he put it all together and gave people, very respectable numbers across the board for a second baseman. And, against my better judgment, I went ahead and drafted him, knowing full well that in my league that counts walks, he wasn't going to do anything for me, and that's always my number one sign with, number one face value sign that if a guy can't, draw a walk every 10 at bats, probably due for some regression at some point or another. Now, I'm not always right in that the year Carlos Gonzalez broke out, I traded him for Manny Ramirez, who did not finish the year, if I remember correctly. So that doesn't always pan out the way I think it does, but it's a pretty good indicator that they're not a disciplined hitter. So they're gonna hack and slash their way on base.
All right. Well, I've recruited some other fantasy baseball dorks to text us some questions here. So here's question number 1: with Longoria's return date pushed back, do you think it is worth giving up good keepers in a trade for for the impact that he could make in the last 6 to 8 weeks.
Well,
Sorry for stumbling over my words there.
kind of depends on the keepers. Did he mention the keepers?
He did not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's a keeper league, it's probably worth it, depending on who you're dealing up. But I mean, Longoria is going to be fine. He's going to be healthy at the end of the year, and he's going to be a keepable player at the end of the year. He's not going to lose a lot of draft value, and depending on how your league's set up, you could probably even trade him in the off season if you're.
Sure. Well, and I was thinking he was thinking about trading some potential keepers for Longoria.
Okay.
I don't know if he would keep Longoria. He would probably be like a 3rd or 4th round keeper.
Well then, yeah, I would be okay with that. I mean, obviously, I need to see what's on the table with potential keepers. I mean, we know Longoria is not a potential keeper. We know we know he's the guy you keep even if he blows out his knee in this season. He's just that type. He's like, there's 5 or 6 guys where you're just like, well, I guess I'm riding this out,
That being said, he is still young, and I called it one of my only great calls of last year. His numbers did regress a little bit last year. I know he was hurt here and there too, but his numbers went down from the year before.
And to be fair though, before he got hurt this year, he was quote unquote back.
Yeah.
We were getting exactly as advertised out of him. The guy I would be afraid of is Troy Tulowitzki. A great skill set, just can't keep it on the field for an entire season.
Yeah, that's true. I'm glad I went back and forth for drafting Tulo or Halladay, and I'm glad I got Halladay, even though they're both on the DL. Anyway, another question here, and obviously, I guess the key thing to remember about me as opposed to you is I'm a more of a roto guy. You're more of a head-to-head guy, and I know this question's coming from another roto fan. Are stolen bases an overrated stat in terms of overall success in the league? In my league, the team that has the top number of steals has not finished in the money. What are your thoughts on that question?
Well, as a head-to-head guy, I believe they're absolutely not important, depending on the setup of your league. Maybe if it's a 4x4 or 5x5, it carries some more weight. I play in a very non-traditional league where it doesn't matter. I can afford to sacrifice it. But my opinion on hitters and stolen bases is that, let's say you're in a 5x5 league. Runs, RBIs, home runs, steals, and batting average. What's a guy like Albert Pujols or Miguel Cabrera? Let's say Miguel Cabrera, since he is actually. What's he going to do for your team versus Juan Pierre, who has 20 steals? He's got a good batting average.
Speaking of somebody that doesn't walk.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Miguel Cabrera does everything that you will ask of a hitter in a 5-category league, except the final category of steals. Whereas Juan Pierre, if he's in the lineup every day, he's going to give you some steals. He may not necessarily give you batting average. And on a team like the Phillies, now that he's floating around year-to-year Kenny Lofton style, he's probably not leading off either. In fact, I know he's not leading off for the Phillies because they're totally enamored with Jimmy Rollins doing that for the rest of his career. But like I said, Juan Pierre, 2-category player, maybe 3 on a good team that wants him to lead off. Miguel Cabrera, solid 4 categories. You get into a non-standardized league, that's going to be 5, 6, 7 categories. We count hits and walks and OPS in my league additionally to those stats, and that's 3 more categories he contributes in, and that would be at least 2 more categories that Juan Pierre does not contribute in. So those are my head-to-head opinions.
Sure.
And in roto leagues, obviously you can't ignore steals, but I feel like the same rules sort of apply, but the more guys like Andrew McCutcheon you can get your hands on, the better.
Exactly. You need some of those guys that do a little bit of everything. You know, in a roto league, if you can stay in the middle of the pack in steals, you're probably going to have a more successful team rather than trying to chase steals. It's kind of like you can, in a roto league, you can almost give up on saves, or if your league has something like holds, you can give up on that category and still have a successful team as long as that's the only category you're not getting points in.
Mm-hmm.
And there was guys out there like McCutcheon, you know, B.J. Upton, who are going to give you both.
Right. There's very few players that fill the entire stat sheet. Obviously, McCutcheon is one right now. But yeah, like in my dynasty league, and actually in almost all three leagues I'm doing right now, my outfield consists of Shin-Soo Choo and Andrew McCutcheon and Mike Stanton. And you know, that's a ton of power and a lot of base running, and that works really well in a roto league, like really well. And if you can get your hands on, you know, diamonds in the rough like Shin-Soo Choo, who, you know, just had an off year and is back to form, that's really what you got to look for. Is, can my base stealing guy also give me some pop? And if you can't, make sure it's like Jose Reyes, who you can play at a weak position like shortstop or second base. Like, you know, that's where you got to plug in those guys, or hope for the next second coming of Russell Martin in his breakout year.
We probably can't move on from the stolen base question without talking about the Reds' single A farmhand shortstop, Billy Hamilton. 104 stolen bases at the All-Star break. 104.
In what, like 97 games?
I'm not sure the number of games, but I know it's either the minor league record or the Class A record is held by Vince Coleman from like 83, and then that number was 143 or 145, something like that. So he's 40 away from that at the All-Star break. It's probably a couple years away from the majors, being that he's Class A, but geez, if I'm the Reds and I make the playoffs, I've got this guy on my roster just to pinch run for the pitcher, don't you think?
Perhaps, like, that's an ambitious September call-out. I don't know. He must be getting on base if he's stolen 104 bases. So I'm gonna, you know, I'd say he's mastered single A at this point. At the very least, he should finish the year at double A. That would be my opinion. I mean,
the big article I read about him yesterday
in the summer of Harper and Trout.
The big article I read about him is he credits his secret ingredient to Mountain Dew. That's what he drinks, is Mountain Dew, not Rockstar or 5 Hour Energy. He drinks Mountain Dew.
He's a classic. He's a throwback.
He's caffeined up.
He keeps a vial of Mountain Dew in his back pocket, so he gets head first.
Speaking, going on to the stolen bases, and we talked about guys that do a little bit of everything. I'm going to throw 4 names out at you, guys who have had 30-30 seasons, and only one of these guys has had 3 30-30 seasons. 30-30 seasons. Sorry. The key hint here is he did not have a 30-30 season in consecutive seasons. So he never did it consecutive seasons, but he had 3 of them. The names are Jeff Bagwell, Ron Gant, Darryl Strawberry, and Howard Johnson. All of those guys had 30 seasons. One of them did it once, 2 of them did it twice, but only one of them did it 3 times.
Well, if I had to put money on one of those guys, I'd put it on Strawberry. He seems like the all-world enough talent to pull it off.
He's actually the only person that did it once. I don't know how somebody that long in the leagues can steal that many bases, but he only did it once. Howard Johnson was the answer. He did it 3 times, and I didn't realize that Howard Johnson was that type of player. I knew he had some power, but I never realized he was that kind of base stealer.
Crazy.